Let's get it on.
Greetings and gratitude to all life forms and life workers who have found this. Not your mother's book club, alchemy, hermeticism, and Buddhism book club discussion. We have our Buddhist guest today. And do you want to introduce yourself, Sara Roush?
Hi, I'm Sara Roush, and I've been practicing Buddhism for about 5 years, seriously. For many years longer, I've been, excuse me, I've been into Hermetism and other practices branching off of this teaching, right? This teaching branches through all teachings. And I had a more pagan background as well. I came across Buddhism and being primed with Hermetism, I was able to immediately understand it and understand this Buddhism and begin practicing it seriously as a devotional practice, which many Hermetists might not do. They may be more floaters in a
Or
sense, and they don't want
experiment? Yeah.
exactly. They'll tap into many things, which I also do.
Yeah,
But
I,
I
I,
chose a
I
devotional
agree.
practice as well. Yeah. So like
That's
some people, they
that's
have
one
a
of the
root.
main difference between the two schools, where many Buddhists have a daily practice, where very few Hermetists have a daily practice.
Exactly. My daily practice is chanting, and so that helps keep me in rhythm
And the Hermetic law of rhythm.
and vibration.
Yep.
That's exactly
So,
the principle that is being exercised when we chant.
so
The rhythm of the
from the
mind.
Kybalion, which I have in front of me, as we talk about this, I will read from the Kybalion. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. The Kybalion. So by you doing your chanting, you're sending rhythmic frequencies throughout the universe to change the pendulum swing.
It's perfect.
And so, with do you have any recommendations for any people who are getting new into Buddhism from a more uh, Kabbalistic, ancient, Hermetic, and self-teaching mindset? What's a good bridge that you have found into the different school of thought?
Excuse me. Yes, sorry. I have found many bridges on my journey. So, I'll mention a few points of contact that I have. One of the first points of contact was actually through Hinduism and Bhakti Yoga with Ram Dass. So I got a westernized um, sort of connection, right? That got me familiar with chanting because I practiced kirtan, which is like singing chant,
Yes.
and you sing along, right? And so I was already familiar with this principle. And then I studied more. Throughout my life, I had the presence of Thich Nhat Hanh, and he is one of the greatest Buddhist teachers around. He has also made Buddhism extremely accessible to people and explained in a really like modern sense. Like he has really translated it to make it very accessible. And he teaches walking meditation and essentially earthing, connecting to the earth, and mindfulness practices. And then beyond that, when I actually joined a Buddhist practice, I got in touch with Nichiren, which is a Japanese practice. And I joined the Soka Gakkai. So they're an international Japanese Buddhist organization. And they've also really modernized and made Buddhism extremely accessible with a ton of study material. And that really helped me even more deeply understand it. But it also gave me uniquely the practice of chanting. And a lot of Buddhist schools have different chants, right? Um, And all chants, as I see it, like all chants, they have different meanings. They have different affirmative code in them, right? And so what our chant does is we devote ourselves to the Lotus Sutra. We chant the title. We call it Daimoku, which means the title. And what we do is we say, I devote myself to this sutra. We chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And what that does is it aligns us with the teaching. And this teaching is the school of thought from the Buddha, where he tells you how to attain enlightenment through the single vehicle, by basically by yourself, but also co-creating with others, right? And I was drawn to this particular practice because not only the chant, we also use a mandala called the Gohonzon. It's a scroll, and this scroll essentially depicts all the potential conditions that a person's life state can be in, but it also portrays the contents of the Lotus Sutra. And so you chant to it and it bounces back to you like a mirror, because there's no separation from self and the all. We are all part of the all, right? And that's what this sutra teaches. It teaches, because everything is interconnected, we have the ability to make causes that ripple out into the universe and affect the conditions, right? Within ourselves and in our environment. And using that, we can use wisdom, the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha, of the Buddha's mental life state. We can attain that ourselves and use that compassion and wisdom to make the right action decisions in a crucial moment. So we get ourselves into vibration by chanting and by fusing ourselves with this condition, with this understanding of this principle. And then so that we are in the right vibration, the right frequency, so that when the challenge or the obstacle arises in our daily lives, right? Like the challenging situation, the pivotal moment of change, we'll make the right decision that benefits everyone. I know I went on a bit of a tangent, but like I have
It's
many
beautiful
branches. Thank you.
because
Yeah.
all of those things relate to the teachings of the Kybalion completely. Law of cause and effect that you referenced as say someone who first I had quite an opposite experience with you. I began studying Buddhism, and then that got me into Hermetism, and then I stuck with that, and I've kind of I still have some Buddhism teachings and beliefs in me, but that was my entry to it, and then from that allowed me to the more ancient origin. I studied how old did Buddhism go? Who was the first Buddha? Where did he learn from? And
Yes.
that went back to Hermes Trismegistus. It is widely considered to be one of the first Buddhas.
Absolutely. I've noticed that as well. Like, the Buddha had his realization, you know, Shakyamuni or Gautama Buddha. He had his realization under the Bodhi tree some
But he's
2,500
only
years
the first
ago.
one we know about. So
There
there
are
easily
many.
could have been thousands of Buddhas before him.
There absolutely are. What's cool about the Lotus Sutra is that it teaches that. It tells us there are many Buddhas before and many Buddhas after, because we all have the ability to attain Buddhahood. There's Buddhas all over the place. This particular Buddha, Shakyamuni, he delivered many messages in great detail. Excuse me, in great detail. But we all have access to that knowledge. And that's what he's trying to tell us. He's trying to help us remember, because there is a great forgetting, right? The great forgetting, so many fallen civilizations. And that's why around the same time, Buddha, Christ, all these other uh, beings came around the same time to spread this teaching after the great forgetting. Some even say
Yes, and,
Jesus may have met Buddhists.
and in the Kybalion, it states that originally the students of Hermes went to all over the world and shared their teachings, but those teachings were then part or became part of the pre-existing teachings in each of those locations. And this is why the
Totally.
7 Hermetic laws are in almost every religion or spiritual path.
Yes. I was going to say they totally sowed the seed. And that connection, my understanding is that connection not only happened on a physical, actual level, but almost on a quantum level that
Yes.
defies time. It defies time as we understand it linearly.
Yeah, and that's another thing too is I've been learning to see time more as a tornado, as a spiral instead of as a line.
It's
Linearly, I
totally a
see it
spiral.
vortically, like spinning as a vortex.
Yes, I
Because
believe
all
that's
of it
very
is the
much it.
same. It's just in emotion. Is the difference between now, 1,000 years from now, and 10 million years from now? There is no difference. They all exist now.
Exactly.
It
It's
is just
turning in
which
on
one are you
itself.
focusing on?
All that exists is the now. And it's all coalescing into the now
And
from the future, from the past.
yes. And does some of these teachings as well, the more kind of mental part of the spiritual path, have you found that the Buddhist way is a more descriptive and more understanding than the Hermetist way, which is very much veiled in axioms and certain types of speech that might be harder to comprehend to a new student?
Oh, yes. Oh my God, I love this question. The Kybalion and many other Hermetic materials are written in a code that can really only be truly understood by the initiate, by someone who knows how to read this mystic text that's written in this manner. The major difference with Buddhism is the Buddha taught the teaching in a way that all people can understand it. So Hermetism, it has a shroud, a protective magical shroud in its language to be used by the responsible initiate. What the Buddha has done is he has taught us in the Lotus Sutra, he teaches us, teach at the capacity of the people, teach at the level that they can understand it, individually, each person, so you can break down Buddhism to its smallest, simplest parts.
And then the Kybalion teaches milk for babes, meat for strong men. When the
Exactly.
when the ears of understanding are open, come forth the lips to feel them. Where fall the lips of wisdom, the ears to hear them will gather wide.
Yes.
So it's the same. It's the same teaching, but way harder to understand.
Exactly. I think a lot of reason for that too is that there are many kinds of hermetists out there. There are dark and light. There are those who do shadow work exclusively. There are those who do gray work. There are those who are more on the light end of the spectrum. It's like the Kybalion can be used in a destructive fashion, right? It can be manipulated by warlocks. And that's something we have to be vigilant about. The thing about Buddhism is you cannot twist it. If you practice it, it will transform you. It will turn an impure person into a good person. You can't you can't you can't chant to harm someone, right? Like it wouldn't work. And so, but unfortunately, people can read the Kybalion and use its code to manipulate the environment. And that's why we have to be vigilant. That's happening in our
Well, they
world on a
manipulate
mass scale.
themselves, which then changes the environment. But yeah,
They face karma still. Don't get me wrong, because they can't cheat the law of cause and effect.
yeah.
They cannot cheat the law, and they will face their karma.
Well, so the Kybalion also states those who do not follow these principles will be rushed alongside the rocks of their ignorance.
Yes, yes. And ignorance is one of the three poisons in Buddhism. It teaches that there are three poisons: ignorance, greed, and anger. And those three poisons are the cause of all suffering. It all the kinds of suffering we could think of. Excuse me. Go back to these three poisons.
Yeah, and all three of
Poverty
those
comes from
poisons
greed.
can be labeled as bliss.
Yes. And that goes into greed, it goes into ignorance because and it can go into anger. You're detached from other beings, and then that causes suffering. Yeah, and
And
ignorance is the hard one because you can feel innocent when you're ignorant.
yeah, and it hurts to know that what you know is not right.
Yes.
We
But that pain is part of the process, the shadow work that has to be done to face
So,
ourselves.
one thing that I'm learning on my own path of the Kybalion, I've read it about I'm on my 30th reading of the Kybalion.
Wow.
So, most of the other times were audiobooks. I just recently got the book in paper, so I'm going through the first time, highlighting it, going through different little phrases that mean more to me the 30th time I'm on it. And what the main lesson I'm learning is to allow them without accepting them. So anger shows up. Okay, I feel the anger, but I don't accept it. And we want to identify to our emotions and to our beliefs, which I find is not accurate. They're not
Mm,
ours. They're not we didn't create them. We just have them. They're like residue.
mm,
We're not like, yes, the dust came from our head. Our dead skin created that dust, but that dust is not us. But we think it is because it's all around us. But so we identify with the anger, we identify with the greed, we identify with the ignorance, and when that changes, we feel we're losing a part of our identity, we're losing a part of who we are because we identify so much to the poison.
oh my God, you totally nailed it. So, like, the way Buddhism relates to this directly is by realizing our Buddha nature, by realizing the fully actualized version of ourselves. That's when we identify with our true identity. But when we slip into the three poisons, we're being affected by them. We're being controlled and dictated by them, and not by our own will, our own sense of direction. And so, like, the quest of seeking enlightenment, it isn't so much about being perfect. It isn't so much about being, always virtuous. We're human, right? But what it's more about is finding your true self. And your true self is a kind, compassionate, wise being. Because we're human beings, we are endowed with the ability to find this happiness. The compassion to when we face obstacles and when we face challenges or we face various types of suffering, we have the wisdom to do so in a manner where we change it into benefits, right? Because all challenges, all lessons in life are essentially manifestations of our karma so that we can work it out, so we can learn the lessons necessary to take us to the next level. We learn how to solve those situations, not just only for ourselves, but for others. And to do that, to help others, is the bodhisattva path. You want to help sow the seed of this teaching and this law so that everyone can attain it. It's not just for ourselves. You can't be happy alone on a mountain. We're entering the new age, right? We call it the age of Aquarius. In Buddhism, we call it uh, the latter day of the law, or the Kali Yuga, some may call it. It's the final turn into this uh, new age. So it's a really crucial time for us to realize our true selves and to be connected with our true selves, so that we can usher this planet into the ascension. You know what I mean? Like,
I
it's
do.
our responsibility.
Your words are very beautiful, and
Ooh.
I feel this sensation that you're talking about, and it is very much like, um, as in this series, the next time we will be talking about the Emerald Tablets,
Yes.
but I would reference them now that their credibility are in question at this time. Some people think the Emerald Tablets are not actually from the Egyptian god entity known as Thoth, but whether or not they are, the teachings in it come from it. So understand that as we move into this new age of Aquarius and this new identity, you have a choice if it's right or wrong. You get to choose what you believe. You get to choose which information is right and which information is not right for you personally. If everybody says that it's wrong, but to you it feels like gospel truth, then follow that until you have enough information to move on to the next study.
Mm.
So don't, it's just identifying. Don't identify yourself with your beliefs. Know that your wisdom, the knowledge you have now, can be radically different yesterday or tomorrow. And I find that Buddhism does help with this as well.
Ah, yes, to have non-attachment to your beliefs. It's so important to be able to adapt to the changing environment. We're finding during this ascension, many secrets are being revealed and many truths are being revealed. So we find things like the authenticity of the Emerald Tablets being questioned, the authenticity of many spiritual documents and holy sacred texts are being questioned at this time. And it's very important to do so. But what's also important is to understand that the ancient information being transcribed, it may be, as some may call it, a new world religion or a new world realization. Like the Buddhism I practice is only 750 years old. It's considered a new take on Buddhism compared to many other schools. And some question the authenticity because of this. They're like, it's a new world religion. And they say something must have antiquity in order to be valid. But the teaching really transcends time and history. Someone may have channeled something in the 70s or the 80s, but it's teaching us ancient subjects, sometimes coming from sources, perhaps cosmic, right?
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
see, that's what I want to talk about. So I know that you operate from the idea of potential space Buddhas, and I find that fascinating. And the Kybalion claims that at the very beginning, Hermes Trismegistus, the man, if indeed he was a man. So it implies that Hermes was not from Earth and may not be a human. So that many people who study the Kybalion, they leave that thought in their mind. What if Hermes Trismegistus came from another world where his teachings were commonplace and he came here to educate us on this way of being? And I know that your school of Buddhism has an idea that maybe Buddha came from space to teach humans the way that other planets are already acting.
I love that you brought this up because in the sutra, specifically the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha, what he does is he has an assembly. He meets all of the Buddhas from all of the planets and all of the times on Eagle Peak. They just all gather there. And it's Eagle Peak is almost like a trans-dimensional reality. It exists at the center of the universe, at the top of the biggest mountain, right? But it's more a place where they came as a consciousness. And the Buddha expounded this teaching to Buddhists from all over. And in this sutra, he basically says, I don't have the quote on me, but he basically states this sutra is found all over the universe, that it's all over the place, that it's on many worlds. He says many lands, but he means many worlds and many times. There are definitely Buddha ETs out there in different times, different places. This teaching is universal. They might not call it the Lotus Sutra. They might not call it Buddhism, right? They might call it by another name, just as the Kybalion or another teaching. But it carries the same essence of what the Buddha taught, distributed in countless languages, because it was an idea, it was a concept. And so, yes, I love that you
It's
brought
the
that up.
germ of truth that can never be eradicated.
Yes, because it is the law, the mystic law from which all things are and will continue to be.
That's so great. I find that really fascinating, and that when you told me about that before, it really resonates to is the those who study. Like I'm on my 30th time reading the Kybalion. I could probably read another 30 more times.
Yes.
And why me, the person who reads a lot of books, why am I reading this one book so many times? Well, the answer is for me, and we can discuss this in Not Your Mother's Book Club, is when I read it, I feel like the knowledge in it is the closest I can get to non exclusive Earth knowledge. The seven laws of Hermes, if they are true, which I believe they are, they must apply to all planets and all realms of reality. They cannot just apply to this one blue planet. And the same is true for the Buddhism. If the teachings of Buddha are true, which I believe they are, then they must be true universally, not just isolated to this one blue planet.
Yes. These universal laws are the principles, like the very backbone of this reality. This reality that we live in, this three-dimensional matrix that we find ourselves in, is the result of the causes and effects that have led to this reality, this manifestation, this current incarnation. It's a universal incarnation. And it's just, I'm trapped in thought. It's just so large. It's so large when you think of the immensity of
The
these laws.
vastness.
So
It's,
vast.
so let's sit at the center of the everything and know that we are one with all, and we have both inside. So, do you have any other things you want to mention on the Kybalion, the book of this first episode? The link to the Kybalion reference page, which has the book in PDF form, if you would like, will be in the description. The link to Sara's Instagram profile will be in the description. And anything else you want to say on this book?
The Kybalion is really, truly one of the greatest activation manuals that we humans have access to. It may be difficult to understand, but as you're reading it, it is encoding you with this understanding. So even if the first time you read the Kybalion, it seems like a bunch of word salad to you, it it is implanting an understanding into you that will start to unfold in your life. And the Buddhist Sutra is very much the same way. You may read the sutra and not understand it immediately, but it's being ingrained into your life. And the laws of the Kybalion are solid. You're going to find these in every tradition, because it is tied to the ancient knowledge. And that's why it doesn't matter. Some say, oh, well, the Kybalion is also not that old. And they try to go into the history of the book itself, right? It doesn't matter how old it is. It's this bridge to the ancient knowledge. If someone channeled it in the 80s or something, it doesn't matter. We have to remember that the essence of the truth of the matter has nothing to do with that. Is it true? And you got to use your discernment, your discerning mind, to figure that out for yourself.
Yes. And this one last thing on the Kybalion, as you brought it up, is some questions are valid to answer because they have a positive outcome, but some are foolish questions that I think that the answer is irrelevant. So it's not a question to let your time on. Example is, who are the three initiates? I feel that this is a question that I don't particularly care about the answer to. I,
Yes.
and by me caring and studying and putting my time and effort to see who are these people, I will never get a valid answer. I will never get the absolute answer. I will never get to the absolute truth. Where the book is full of absolute truths, but if you look to the author, you won't ever find any because there's no truth of who these three initiates are. It might just be one person and it might be 700 people. There's no way to actually know.
They very carefully shrouded their identities because their identities don't matter.
It would have distracted from the book.
Exactly. It would have been about the idolatry of the author. So often people worship the Buddha, but you don't want to worship someone outside yourself because then you miss the point. You miss the point that you can attain it. They're teachers. They're showing us the way, but they're merely acting as guides, showing us how we can attain it. Their
Yeah,
identities don't matter.
that's great. Um, I am very grateful for your time here. And do you have any final message to the members of Not Your Mother's Book Club?
Absolutely. Keep studying, guys. Keep studying. The ascension is upon us. Things are changing in this world rapidly and have been gestating this entire time the world has been on lockdown, the entire time that we have been forced to contemplate and prepare ourselves for the major shift. Just keep reading, guys, and practicing, applying it to your life.
Thank you, and remember, you are the path. See you in the next broadcast.